My father texted the group, "You're cut off. Find your own way," forgetting I handled their investments. I complied, liquidating my shares and watching their portfolio plummet from afar as the regrets poured in. I, 32M, never thought a single text message would be the catalyst that dismantled my entire family's financial empire, but here we are. Let me take you back to where this all started, because the aftermath has been nothing short of spectacular. Growing up, I was the golden child. Top grades, full scholarship to an Ivy League university, graduated summa cum laude with a degree in finance. My father built his construction business from the ground up, and my mother came from old money. Between them, they had accumulated substantial wealth. My older brother went into the family construction business, my younger sister married a doctor, and I became the financial wizard who quietly managed everyone's money while they lived their lives. For 7 years, I handled the family's investment portfolio. Not just my parents, but my brothers, my sisters, even my grandmother's trust fund. I restructured their assets, moved them into high-yield opportunities, balanced risk profiles, and turned their collective net worth into something that would have made Wall Street firms jealous. My management fee was nominal, barely covering my time, because family came first. At least, that's what I believed. The trouble started 6 months ago when I began dating someone my family deemed unsuitable. She worked as a veterinary technician, came from a working-class background, and hadn't been to college. To me, she was intelligent, kind, and ambitious in ways that didn't require a degree to prove. To my family, she was a gold digger who couldn't possibly love me for anything other than the family wealth. My mother started making snide comments during Sunday dinners. My sister stopped inviting us to gatherings. My brother told me I was embarrassing the family name. My father remained mostly silent, which I mistook for tacit approval. I should have known better. The arguments escalated over months. My girlfriend and I got engaged, and that's when things truly imploded. My mother refused to attend the wedding. My sister called me selfish. My brother said I was throwing away everything our family stood for. I tried to reason with them, tried to make them see that she made me happy, that their judgment was unfair and classist. They wouldn't hear it. Then came the text message. It arrived in our family group chat on a Tuesday afternoon while I was in a meeting with a client. My father's message was brief and devastating. "You've made your choice. You're cut off. Find your own way. Don't expect any help from this family." The group chat exploded with messages of agreement from my mother, brother, and sister. Not a single person defended me. Not one voice of reason suggesting this was extreme. Just a united front of rejection. I sat in my office, staring at my phone, feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath me. 7 years of managing their money, of growing their wealth, of sacrificing my own career advancement to be available whenever they needed financial advice. And this was how they treated me. The irony wasn't lost on me that they were cutting me off while I literally controlled the accounts that held their money. I didn't respond immediately. I went home, showed my fiancée the messages, and we talked for hours. She offered to break up with me, to remove herself from the equation if it meant I could have my family back. That's when I knew she was the right person, and they were absolutely wrong about her. I told her we were getting married with or without them, and I meant it. The next morning, I went into my office with a clear head and a decisive plan. I drafted a formal letter of resignation as their financial manager, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting they find new representation within 30 days. I sent it via email and certified mail to create a paper trail. Professional, clean, final. Then I reviewed the portfolio structure. Here's something my family never understood about how I managed their money. I didn't just invest their funds separately. I had created an interconnected investment strategy where certain positions in my personal accounts were strategically paired with their holdings to maximize returns and minimize risk exposure. My shares acted as a stabilizing force in several high-stakes ventures. Remove my portion, and the whole structure became significantly more volatile. I owned roughly 18% of the total family investment pool through my own accounts, which I had grown substantially over the years through my salary and bonuses from my actual job at a private equity firm. My portion wasn't family money. It was mine, earned and invested independently, but it was positioned in a way that supported their larger holdings. Over the next 2 weeks, I systematically liquidated my positions. I started with the most interconnected investments, the ones where my exit would create immediate ripple effects. I moved methodically, legally, and without any obligation to inform them since these were my personal accounts. Every transaction was documented, every move was clean. The real genius of my strategy was timing. I had positioned the family into several emerging markets that were showing incredible promise, but required careful monitoring and quick decision-making. These weren't set-it-and-forget-it investments. They needed active management, constant rebalancing, and deep understanding of market signals. I had been providing that service, and now I wasn't. My father called first, 3 weeks after the cutoff message. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail asking about some quarterly reports he expected. I didn't call back. My resignation letter had given them 30 days to find new management, and I was honoring that timeline by being completely unavailable. My brother texted asking why certain accounts showed unusual activity. I responded with a single message, my attorney's contact information, and a reminder that my resignation was already submitted. Nothing more. The 30-day mark came and went. I had successfully moved all my assets into new investment vehicles, completely separate from anything family-related. My fiancée and I were planning our wedding, smaller and more intimate than originally envisioned, but filled with people who actually cared about us. That's when my sister called, panicked. Their new financial advisor, someone my father hired quickly and cheaply, had reviewed the portfolio and discovered what I already knew. My withdrawal had exposed them to significant risk in several positions. The emerging market investments I had been actively managing were starting to fluctuate wildly without proper oversight. The new advisor recommended liquidating several positions at a loss to minimize damage. I listened to her voicemail with detached interest. She asked me to call back, to explain the portfolio structure, to help them understand what I had built. Her tone was desperate, not apologetic. She wanted my expertise without acknowledging the hurt they had caused. I didn't call back. 2 months after the initial cutoff message, the market correction I had been anticipating finally hit. I had been preparing for it for 18 months, slowly repositioning accounts to weather the storm. My personal portfolio was insulated. The family's portfolio was not. The emerging market positions they were overexposed and dropped significantly. The new financial advisor, not understanding the hedging strategy one had implemented, panicked and sold at the worst possible time, locking in massive losses. Other positions that needed rebalancing were left untouched because the advisor didn't understand the interconnected strategy. My father called from my mother's phone since I had blocked his number. I answered out of curiosity. He asked me to meet him for coffee, said we needed to talk. His voice sounded older, tired. I told him I was busy planning my wedding and suggested he consult with his current financial advisor. I hung up before he could respond. The voicemail started coming regularly after that. My mother, crying, saying she missed me. My brother, angry, accusing me of sabotaging them intentionally. My sister, bargaining, offering to accept my fiancé if I would just help them recover their losses. My grandmother, confused, asking why I hadn't visited. I felt a twinge of guilt about my grandmother. She had always been kind to me, never said a harsh word about my fiancé. But her money was managed through the same family trust, and extracting just her portion would have been legally complicated and potentially damaging to her tax situation. I sent her a personal letter explaining that I loved her, that I would visit her privately, but that I couldn't resume managing the family's finances. 3 months after the cutoff message, my brother showed up at my office. Security called to ask if I wanted to see him. I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. I agreed to meet him in the lobby cafe, neutral territory, 15-minute time limit. He looked awful. Stress had aged him. He sat down and immediately started talking about the portfolio, about how much they had lost, about how the new advisor was incompetent. He said they had gone through 3 different financial managers in 3 months, and none of them understood the complex structure I had created. I listened without interrupting. When he finished, I asked him if he had anything else to say. He looked confused. I clarified. Was there anything personal he wanted to address, or was this purely a business meeting? He struggled for a moment, then said they had made a mistake, that they reacted poorly to my engagement news, that they wanted to make things right. I asked him if they wanted to make things right because they genuinely regretted their behavior, or because they needed my financial expertise. He couldn't give me a straight answer. I told him the truth. I had built my career on trust and relationships, and they had destroyed both. I explained that even if I wanted to help, which I didn't, I couldn't ethically resume managing their money after they had terminated our relationship so decisively. It would be professionally irresponsible to manage investments for people who had demonstrated they would cut me off the moment I displeased them. I needed clients who trusted me unconditionally, and they had proven they didn't. He tried to argue, said it was different now, that they understood their mistake. I asked him if my fiancée was invited to Sunday dinner. He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I stood up, told him our 15 minutes were up, and walked back to my office. For months after the cutoff message, I got married. Small ceremony, close friends, my fiancé's wonderful family who had welcomed me with open arms. No one from my family attended, though my grandmother sent a generous check and a heartfelt note saying she was too frail to travel but wished us every happiness. The wedding was beautiful, intimate, and filled with genuine love. My wife cried happy tears. I realized I hadn't seen genuine emotion from my family in years, just performance and pretense. This was real. On our honeymoon, my phone stayed off for 2 weeks. When I turned it back on, I had 47 missed calls and dozens of text messages from various family members. The market had experienced another correction, and apparently the family's portfolio had taken another significant hit. They were now down approximately 40% from their peak value when I had been managing it. I deleted the messages without reading most of them. My wife and I had more important things to focus on, like where we wanted to live and whether we wanted to start a family soon. We talked about careers and dreams and building a life together. We didn't talk about my family. 6 months after the cutoff message, my father managed to corner me at my grandmother's 90th birthday party. I had promised her I would attend, and I kept my promises. He pulled me aside and did something I never expected. He apologized, not for needing my financial help, but for how they had treated me and my wife. He said he had been wrong, that my mother had been wrong, that they had let snobbery and pride destroy our relationship. I appreciated the apology, I told him, but apologies didn't erase 6 months of silence and rejection. They didn't erase the family group chat that still existed without me in it. They didn't erase the wedding they had boycotted. He asked what it would take to fix things. I told him I honestly didn't know, but it would require genuine acceptance of my wife and sustained effort to rebuild trust. And it definitely wouldn't involve me managing their money again. He asked about the portfolio, cautiously, and I shut that down immediately. I told him their financial situation was no longer my concern or responsibility. They had made their choice when they cut me off, and I had made mine when I liquidated my positions. Whatever losses they had incurred were the natural consequence of poor planning and worse judgment. My mother approached as we were talking, looking smaller somehow. She hugged me, which surprised me. She apologized too, said she had been cruel and unfair to my wife. She asked if we could start over, maybe have dinner together, just the 4 of us. I told her I would discuss it with my wife and let them know. My wife, generous soul that she is, agreed to one dinner. Neutral location, clear time limit, no discussion of finances. We met them at a restaurant, and it was awkward at first. But my mother made a genuine effort to get to know my wife, asking about her work, her family, her interests. My father was quieter but respectful. They didn't mention the money situation once. At the end of dinner, my mother asked if we could do this again. My wife looked at me, and I saw in her eyes that she was willing to try if I was. I told them we could have dinner again in a month, see how things progressed. Slow steps, rebuilt trust, no guarantees. 7 months after the cutoff message, my brother and sister still hadn't genuinely apologized. They had sent text messages that amounted to non-apologies, the kind that started with phrases about how I had misunderstood their intentions. I didn't respond. My parents were making an effort. They weren't. That told me everything about who actually regretted their actions versus who just wanted their money manager back. The family portfolio continued its decline. I heard through my grandmother that they were now working with a large investment firm that charged substantial fees and delivered mediocre results. They had lost nearly half the gains I had built for them over 7 years. My personal portfolio, meanwhile, was thriving. The market correction I had prepared for had created buying opportunities, and I had positioned myself perfectly to capitalize on them. I won't pretend there wasn't satisfaction in watching the situation unfold. I'm human, and they had hurt me deeply. But the real satisfaction came from building a life with my wife, from being proven right about her character, from creating distance from people who valued money and status over genuine relationships. My grandmother pulled me aside at a family gathering I attended specifically to see her. She told me she was proud of how I had handled everything, that I had shown more integrity than the rest of the family combined. She said she had set up a separate trust for me and my wife, managed by her personal attorney, that would be ours regardless of what happened with the rest of the family. She didn't want my inheritance tied up in the drama. I thanked her, told her it wasn't necessary, but she insisted. She said she had watched my father build his business through cutthroat tactics and my mother maintain her social position through calculated cruelty, and she was tired of pretending those were admirable qualities. She wanted to ensure the one family member with genuine character was taken care of. 8 months after the cutoff message, my wife got pregnant. We were overjoyed. When we told my parents, they were excited but cautious, asking if they would be allowed to be part of their grandchild's life. I told them that depended entirely on their behavior over the next 9 months. Children needed consistency and love, not conditional acceptance based on financial utility. My mother started coming to our house for weekly dinners. Slowly, painfully slowly, she and my wife developed a relationship. Not friendship exactly, but mutual respect. My father joined sometimes, always careful, always respectful. They were trying, genuinely trying, and I appreciated that even if I couldn't forget what had happened. My brother called eventually, offered a real apology. He admitted he had been jealous of my financial success, that cutting me off had seemed like a way to level the playing field, and that he realized how stupid and petty that had been. He asked if we could rebuild our relationship. I told him I was willing to try, but that it would take time. He accepted that. My sister never apologized. Last I heard, she was telling people I had sabotaged the family intentionally, that I had structured the portfolio to fail without me out of spite. My mother shut that narrative down whenever she heard it, which I appreciated. Some people can't admit when they're wrong. The family's financial situation stabilized eventually. They would never recover what they lost, but they weren't in dire straits. They just weren't as wealthy as they had been when I was managing everything. They had to scale back their lifestyle, sell some properties, make adjustments. Hard lessons about the value of expertise and the cost of pride. My wife gave birth to a healthy daughter 9 months later. My parents were at the hospital, respectful and loving. My grandmother held her great-granddaughter and cried happy tears. My brother brought gifts. My sister sent a card but didn't visit. As I held my daughter, I thought about the lessons I wanted to teach her. Not about money or investments or revenge, but about knowing your worth and standing by your principles. About choosing people who love you unconditionally over those who love you conveniently. About building a life on genuine foundations rather than superficial expectations. The cutoff message that destroyed my relationship with my family also freed me to build something better. My marriage is strong. My career is thriving. My daughter will grow up watching her parents treat each other with respect and kindness. My relationship with my parents is cautiously positive, built on new terms and healthier boundaries. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had just broken up with my wife when they demanded it, if I had chosen family peace over personal happiness. Then I look at the life I have now and realize there's no comparison. They offered me conditional love and financial enmeshment. She offered me partnership and genuine acceptance. The portfolio situation resolved itself with natural consequences. I didn't sabotage anything. I simply removed my expertise and my strategic positioning from the equation. They had to find out the hard way that my value wasn't just in executing trades, but in the complex strategy and active management I provided. That lesson cost them several $1,000,000 and taught them nothing money could buy. My father texted me recently asking for advice on a potential investment opportunity. Not asking me to manage it, just asking for my opinion. I gave him an honest assessment, no charge, no strings attached. He thanked me and made his own decision. That's how it should have been all along. Family helping family, not family exploiting family. The regrets they expressed were real, I believe that now. But regrets don't change the past. They only inform the future. My family learned that expertise has value, that relationships require respect, and that cutting someone off has permanent consequences even when you try to reconnect. I learned that standing by my principles was worth the cost, that the right partner makes everything easier, and that sometimes the family you build is more important than the family you're born into. My daughter will know her grandparents. but she'll grow up understanding that love should never be conditional and that her worth isn't tied to anyone's expectations. The group chat that started this entire situation still exists. I'm still not in it. They created a new one that includes me, where conversations are superficial and carefully polite. I prefer it that way. Some bridges burn and shouldn't be rebuilt, just replaced with something more honest. My wife sometimes asks if I regret how everything unfolded. I tell her the truth. I regret that they forced me to choose, but I don't regret the choice I made. She was worth it. Our life together was worth it. Watching their portfolio plummet was just the bonus prize for standing by what mattered most. If you'd like to see more stories like this, a gentle tap on the subscribe button would mean the world to us.